Sometimes the smallest numbers tell the biggest stories. A single digit can literally be the only thing separating a totally routine event from an absolute catastrophe. Today, we're going to dive into one of those numbers, all based on a really fascinating analysis from a mechanical engineer, Dr. Lev Nemotin, who actually experienced this whole thing firsthand. Okay, so right from the jump, the author, who, remember, is a mechanical engineer and was a passenger on this very flight, wants us to be crystal clear on one thing. As he says right here, this is not a story meant to freak anyone out. It's the exact opposite, actually. It's all about his admiration for the incredible systems and the training that keep us all so safe in the air. This is a story about skill under pressure. So let's set the scene. Picture this. You're on a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. You've been flying for 12 hours straight, crossing oceans. And finally, you're on the final approach. You can see the ground getting closer and closer, and home is just moments away. Everything feels completely, totally normal. Now, here's the key thing to get your head around, just how normal the conditions were. The plane's moving at about 160 miles per hour. The runway is dry. And yeah, there was a gusty crosswind, but it was still well within the certified safe limits for this aircraft. By every single metric, this was just another standard landing. And then, at the precise moment the wheels make contact with the pavement, bam! A sudden, powerful gust of wind just slams into the side of the plane. It's this sharp, violent jerk, so strong that every single passenger on board feels it. For just a split second, this massive jet feels totally unstable, almost like it's skidding on a patch of ice. For the pilots, the event was handled and over in less than 2 seconds. But for anyone thinking about the physics of what just happened, a huge question pops up. How close did that sudden gust really push this plane to the edge? Well, the answer comes down to one single tiny number. 5 degrees. That's it. That's the number this entire story hinges on. 5 degrees was the margin between a bumpy but safe landing and a potential disaster. So what's the big deal? Well, a Boeing 787's wing stretches out about 98 feet from the side of the plane. If that aircraft rolls just 5 degrees to the side, that's enough for the wingtip to drop all the way down and hit the runway. And a wingtip striking the ground at 160 miles per hour would be, well, let's just say catastrophic. But let's be real for a second. When you hear 5 degrees, it just doesn't sound like a lot, does it? It feels like a tiny little adjustment, a minor tilt. So just how small is it, really? The author explains this perfectly with a simple little experiment you can do right now. Imagine taking 2 sheets of paper and putting them side by side. Now just slide one corner of one sheet by about 3/16 of an inch. That tiny, almost unnoticeable angle you just made? Yep, that's about 5 degrees. Visually, it's next to nothing. And that right there is the whole paradox. An angle that is completely meaningless on your desk becomes the absolute dividing line between safety and disaster when you apply it to a massive airplane moving at high speed. The scale of it changes everything. So this brings up the next obvious question, right? Why was the plane so vulnerable to begin with? Why was that margin for error so razor thin at this one specific moment? The answer actually has to do with the physics of a really long flight. Okay, so after flying for 12 hours, the plane is way, way lighter because it's burned off hundreds of thousands of pounds of fuel. Now, that's a good thing. It means less stress in the landing gear, less fire risk, but here's the catch. Less mass also means less inertia. The lighter the plane is, the easier it is for a strong gust of wind to just shove it sideways. And this is where human skill becomes the most important safety system of all. The entire event, from the wind hitting the plane to the pilots fixing it, unfolds in the time it takes to snap your fingers, 1 to 2 seconds. It is a truly incredible display of training and pure precision. And the pilot's actions are like a perfectly choreographed symphony of control. They apply the rudder to straighten the plane's nose, which realigns the fuselage with the runway. That stops the sideways drift. And crucially, they use the ailerons to correct the roll, stopping that wing from dipping down toward the pavement. It's a complex dance that's over in a heartbeat. Because of that immediate, precise correction, the incident was over before it ever really began. The wing never came close to that 5-degree limit. What the passengers felt as a scary jolt was, in the cockpit, just a quiet, perfect demonstration of mastery. The plane taxied to the gate, and everyone walked off, completely safe. But this story leaves you with a really fascinating thought.
We've just focused on one 5-degree margin in aviation, but it makes you wonder, what other invisible, razor-thin margins, all upheld by human skill and incredible design, do we all rely on every single day without ever even knowing they're there?